Hello everyone. I'll just wait for the ad to play on my own video. Michael Schaefer, Scuba Pete, Zanista Studios, Chris Miwa. I was chatting to Alan Dawson before, I know you're in there. How are we all doing? Yeah, it sounds strange saying morning. Yeah, it's 9 o'clock in the evening here. This is something new for me. And we're back in the toy room. It was the reason I moved the live streams down to the studio is I tend to do the live streams. It's like 6 a.m. on a Saturday morning for me at the usual time slot. And when I do those at 6 a.m., like sometimes Gracie works on a Saturday, sometimes she doesn't. So if I'm doing the live stream, that's our bedroom right there, and you have to walk through this room to get downstairs. So it can be frustrating for her if she's getting ready in the morning, or even if she's not going to work, and she just wants to come from the bedroom down to the kitchen to make a coffee, and she's got to walk through a live stream first thing in the morning. So, but Grace is out. She's on a girls' night out tonight. I'm designated driver, so I'm enjoying a glass of Coke with some ice in it. I haven't drank Coke in ages. I'm enjoying it. Because normally on a Saturday night by now I'd be drinking beer, but I'm designated driver. I'm going to pick her up later on after the live stream, but I've told her that she can't disturb me for the next hour and a half. So, Soviet Idiot says, I've got to say the shelves as the background makes it 100% more cooler. Yeah, I really much prefer doing the live streams in the toy room, because there is so much more for you guys to look at. If I continue to do them, I'll probably try and change up the display behind me a little bit, so you're not always looking at the same thing. But this is now where the majority of my Action Force collection lives. This is all the 1983, 1984 Action Force collection. The only thing that's kind of not here is the Z-Force headquarters. It's just too big, it's packed away. And then I've got a shelf over there by my computer for the 1982 stuff. I need to try and figure out how I'm going to get them in here as well. Thank you very much, Scuba Pete. Appreciate that. Michael Schaefer says, this shot looks great, better than some TV host home video. Yeah, thank you. So we're here today to talk about G.I. Joe, but one thing I do want to quickly discuss before we get started is I checked in about 30 minutes before the live stream started to see if there were people waiting and if people making any comments, and I noticed that 3 unreasonably angry people had disliked the live stream already. Isn't that sad? Isn't it sad that someone can dislike something before they've even watched it? Although I've probably did that with The Rise of Skywalker, but I was proven correct. So anyway, no concern of mine. I just feel for the mental state of these people. Yes, trolls. Yeah, they're just jealous that I'm cooler than they are, I think. Carl Matthew Commendador says, any luck spotting the Retro Joe and He-Man figures? Not here in Australia, mate. I'm not sure if we're even going to get them down here. I'm really kind of hoping that we do get the Mo2 Origins figures here, because I would like to collect those. But yeah, I haven't seen them. But again, I live in a very remote town. There's only one place here to buy toys. It's in Kmart. It's got a very small aisle. It's not very well stocked. You compare it with a Kmart down in the city area, and they get a lot more stuff. So, Soviet Idiot, I would love to have the playset of the Flag aircraft carrier as the table for the live stream, but unfortunately I don't own one. As a matter of fact, when I was getting ready for this, now I will say specifically today's live stream is about G.I. Joe, not Cobra. I did a Cobra live stream a while ago. That's when I was trying to stream in 1080p and I was having all of those issues, and not a lot of people watched that live stream. So this is going to be G.I. Joe only, and I will potentially, maybe the next live stream or the one after that, do a Cobra themed live stream and kind of revisit that one, because last time it didn't go very well. So Kenny Long says, live streams like yours, Tony, are far better than any of the late night shows in the US, like Fallon or Kimmel. They all suck the chrome off a Trump. Thank you, Kenny Long. I appreciate that. Carol Matthew Commendador says, there's news about the Motu Origins figures getting released in other stores somewhere next year, so that's kind of a good sign. Yeah, as far as I'm aware, they are only Walmart exclusive. I think it's Walmart, or whatever it is. They're only exclusives in 2020, and they will be going general retail, wide release in 2021, so that's great. Yes, Scuba Pete, Cobra. I've got to get the Rattler out again, and yeah, we'll do a Cobra live stream soon. So we're here today to talk about G.I. Joe, and I do have a mystery box to open at the end of the live stream. So my experience with G.I. Joe, specifically a real American hero, as a child growing up in the United Kingdom, is a bit of a confused one, because I collected Action Force in like 83, 84. I then moved away from Action Force for a couple of years. I think I got into A-Team and definitely got into Masters of the Universe. And when what we called Action Force International Heroes, which is G.I. Joe as we know it, that was released in the UK in 1987. I did not realise, even though it was both called Action Force, I did not realise that this Action Force was associated with the Palitoy Action Force, because, and I've got here an Action Force card back that was very kindly donated to the channel by George Aiken. This is an Action Force International Heroes card back. This is the first series card back from 1987. This is the line that I really, really heavily collected. When this came out, because the artwork was so different to the Action Force packaging, I didn't think the two lines were in any way linked. This was released by Hasbro in the UK. This is 2 years after Palitoy had basically gone out of business. And I absolutely adored this line. But I was not really aware of what G.I. Joe, a Real American Hero was. And I didn't make the connection until late 1988. So I would have been 11 years old when my family were moving to Australia. We had flown to Singapore. It was a long flight from the UK to Singapore. And we had like 5 days stopover in Singapore, a bit of a family holiday, before we arrived in Australia. And my parents took me to a massive Toys R Us store on Orchard Road in Singapore, which is a big like shopping street in the middle of Singapore. And I went in there and I found the Dreadnought Cycle, and I got all excited. And then all of a sudden I looked and I was like, hey, this says G.I. Joe on the box. And that was when the penny first dropped for me that the two toy lines were one and the same. Venkman, yes, I agree. Hopefully one of these live streams will cover Dr. Jones. We're just waiting for the patrons to vote on it. But I'm going to keep putting up as a topic until people eventually vote for Indiana Jones. Brendan Haley says, Action Force standing over G.I. Joe. Subliminal message, Tony. No, not quite. They're all one and the same to me. Bobby L. Collins just woke up and says, what a treat. Thanks, Bobby L. Collins. Appreciate that. And yes, Michael Schaefer, I do agree. Indiana Jones is a fantastic toy line, the original Kenner toy line. The one item that is not cool is the 12-inch Indiana Jones Ken doll. That's not a cool toy at all. But I do have one in the box in my collection. Chris Mewa, Tony, did you ever had the Snowcat out in the snow? I don't think I had the Snowcat when I was a child. I'm pretty sure I didn't have the Snowcat. I'm sure one of my friends down the street did. Ken says that he loves my review of the Robo Skull. Thank you very much. We do have another big Action Force video coming before Christmas. which is going to be Action Force 1982, the first series. I've got all the toys now. I've got a wealth of information from the manager of the Action Force brand, Bob Breakin. So we'll go there. Charles, what's your favourite Cobra? Oh, that's a really tough one. I really like the Army Builder figures, so I'm particularly fond of the Cobra Eel. I really like the Snow Serpent. I'm not a huge fan of the Televiper. I think because when I was a child, this came out in the UK in 1987. The 1987 release had 6, 12, and 20 figures in the 1987 lineup. I got 19 of the 20. The one figure I didn't get was the first version of Storm Shadow. But I got 2 Televipers for some reason. But I like the Cobra Troop Builder figures. So the Eels, the Snow Serpent, the Crimson Guard, I'm particularly fond of. Carol Matthew, Commendador, any experience with 90s Joe figures? Not a lot. In the 90s, Hasbro had reintroduced Action Man around 1994, I want to say. Action Man came back out, and there were still some G.I. Joe figures on the store shelves then. I was kind of aware of them, but I wasn't purchasing anything. Zonista Studios, what was the first Joe vehicle and do you still have it? I don't have any of my originals. I believe my first Joe vehicle was the Ore Striker. It's hard for me to remember because 1987, the whole year was Action Force International Heroes. Let's just call it G.I. Joe. The whole year was G.I. Joe for me. I got the Cobra Stinger, the Ore Striker, the Water Moccasin. The big gift for Christmas was the Cobra Hydrofoil. As I said, I got 19 of the 20 figures, which I'm now trying to recomplete that set. I've recently purchased a Lady J figure off eBay. She's in the post at the moment. There's a couple of other figures I need to track down. I need Shipwreck's accessories. Well, actually, to give you guys an understanding, let's see how well you can see that. They're the figures that were released in the UK in 1987. So, Footloose, Dusty, the Cobra Soldier or Cobra Trooper, Snow Serpent, Flint, Lady J, version 1 Storm Shadow, Eels, Barbecue, Bazooka, Crimson Guard, Televiper, Airtight, Snake Eyes version 2, Ripper, Buzzer, Shipwreck, Alpine, Destro, and Quick Kick. And currently, I have missing from my collection Storm Shadow version 1, although I have a lead on one that I'm going to hopefully purchase soon. Crimson Guard, Ripper, Buzzer's missing one of his accessories, I'm not too concerned about that, and Quick Kick. So I'm trying very hard to complete that set because, I've got a lot of childhood memories of 1987 of collecting this line. Gojatron says he sees the US comic on the table. Do you prefer US or UK comic format? I personally prefer the UK comic format, which was Action Force Weekly. It was a larger format comic. But the only reason I prefer that is because it's what I grew up with. I'm not saying it's any better than G.I. Joe. I have also purchased a very large lot. There was 50 regular issues of Action Force Weekly, and then there was like a crossover comic with Transformers and some holiday specials and stuff. But I would really like to complete the set of 50. I've recently purchased a large lot of those comics. I can't remember exactly how many, but around 30 of the 50 that were available. So it's a great start to the collection. Once I get it in hand, again, it's in the post, like everything's taking ages at the moment. Once I get that stack of Action Force Weekly comics, I'll kind of draw up a list of what's missing, and then go on the hunt for those missing comics. Jimmy Morey says he loves the content and G.I. Joe. That's great. I love G.I. Joe as well. Stiff Kittens Reviews. Did you get the Battle Action Force comics growing up? Yeah, I had some Battle Action Force comics as well, but the one comic from my entire childhood that I collected religiously and read religiously was Action Force Weekly. That is the comic that defined my childhood in the 1980s. Ted Milch said, did you all have the cartoon in the UK? So the cartoon was not aired on British television, as far as I'm aware. I'm almost certain it wasn't. But they did take the G.I. Joe cartoon and release it on VHS cassette in video stores. It was renamed Action Force, and every time the characters in the cartoon would say Yo Joe, it was changed to Full Force. Dubbed over with some horrendously jarring British accents. Also, Sergeant Slaughter, who I've got here, Sergeant Slaughter was prominent in the Action Force cartoon as well, but in the UK he was renamed Sergeant Slammer. I've done a video about Sergeant Slaughter and his Triple T on the channel. Michael Schaefer, what was the tip? I missed that. Yes, Michael Schaefer, collect what you like the most. That's my advice too. Do I love the G.I. Joe movies? No, I absolutely hated Rise of Cobra. Retaliation was a better effort, but both movies missed the mark for me. G.I. Joe Retaliation is a little bit more watchable. A little bit. I don't like Bruce. I was going to say Bruce Lee then. Bruce Willis was terribly miscast as Joe Colton. But I thought The Rock was excellent. I much preferred Snake Eyes costume. I thought the scene, the action, the set piece in the mountains where they're trying to, Snake Eyes and Jinx are trying to get Storm Shadow off the mountain. I thought that was a really well done set piece. Yes, Ted, look up the Sergeant Slammer video. I think it's just called, it's a G.I. Joe review of the Triple T and the Havoc. I've got a childhood story that I shared about those two toys. Magnificent Boom. Will this be replayed on 7HD or maybe Gem? No, I doubt it. I doubt it. This is just for you guys. Someone's asking, what's the helicopter? This is the Tomahawk. This is one of my favourite G.I. Joe vehicles. I was never gifted this as a child, but a good friend of mine had this, and I traded my Cobra Hydrofoil for it. So I think he got the raw end of the deal. Unfortunately, a childhood friend that I've lost touch with over the years. Werewolf by Lunchtime says he just finished watching Ice Cold in Alex. Brilliant film. Yes, it is. I'll have to rewatch that. I haven't seen that for a long, long time. Question for the ages. Hawk, Duke, or Flint? For me, it's Flint. Because Flint was in the original 1987 Action Force lineup. Whereas Duke and Hawk came, like the General Hawk figure, came a little bit later in the line. Duke did not appear in the International Heroes line. He did appear in the 1985 Palitoy Action Force line. Stephen S says, what is the Joe that you have boxed in the front? This is the only carded G.I. Joe I have. This is Spearhead and Max, the Point Man. I just wanted to put a carded Joe on because one of the amazing things about G.I. Joe, I think anyway, is the packaging design and the artwork was so dynamic. Hasbro did so much with the card backs. I mean, the inclusion of these file cards was just a genius move. But the artwork and the packaging itself is colourful, vibrant, exciting. I can remember the first time I walked into a toy store and saw that packaging on a toy shelf. I was instantly transfixed, and I don't know if I threw a tantrum or what, but there was no way I was leaving that toy store without my parents buying me an action figure. And I came home with barbecue, so I'm particularly fond of the barbecue action figure because it's the first real G.I. Joe figure that I ever got. Yes, Tiger Bread 78. Flint was British in the UK, so it was always Flint for you. Yeah. Flint was an English guy. He's the character in the comic. Gojatron's asking my opinion of the G.I. Joe animated film. Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of the animated film. That's when G.I. Joe started to go awry for me, I suppose. Yeah. Flint studied in the UK on a Rhodes Scholarship. That's right. I think you're correct there. I'm not an expert on UK file cards. Scuba Pete says, God, he would mow the grass, wash the car, paint the deck, clean his room, anything to get a little bit of pocket money to buy figures. Keith Holmesley says, Dusty and Lightfoot were my first two G.I. Joes. I got Dusty fairly early on. My family on my dad's side is reasonably large. He's got two sisters and a brother. They all have children, so there's a lot of us cousins. And I'm pretty sure my family at the time they must have spoken with each other. Because throughout my birthday and Christmas of 1987, I got, as I said, 19 of the 20 different figures, and I would get 2 figures from one auntie and 2 figures from another. I remember that Christmas so well, opening up a present, and it would be 2 figures like sandwiched together, wrapped up in wrapping paper. Awesome memories. Venkman, thank you very much for the generous super chat. He said, I had some G.I. Joe toys as a kid, but it didn't really click for me. But years later, literally the night before I graduated from high school, I read the first issue of the G.I. Joe comic by Larry Hama, and I was hooked. And I can understand why. Like I'm almost pleased that I didn't grow up with the cartoon, because I enjoyed the comic story. And for those of you who aren't aware, Action Force Weekly, the comic, had some unique stories in there that were sort of written and created by Marvel UK. But the through-running storyline throughout the whole 50 issues were reprinted G.I. Joe stories. So I know that Larry Hama's writing was incredible. Some of the art was amazing, and I just loved reading those. And if you can see in the corner there, one of the cats is in the room. Michael Schaefer says, wasn't the Tomahawk on one of the covers? Yes, it was definitely on the cover of a G.I. Joe comic, but it was not ever on an Action Force Weekly, because I don't believe the Tomahawk had come out in the UK by the time. The Action Force Weekly, it was a week, it's in the name, it's a weekly comic, 50 issues, so it didn't even last a year, just shy of a year. And issue 1 and issue 2 were released together, so it was actually available in newsagents for 49 weeks. DGR, I really wish those old figures were still made on the original card backs, especially the Kenner Star Wars ones. I bet they wouldn't be the same price that they were back then, though. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. How many cats do we have? We have 3 cats. And I can't keep them out of the toy room because it doesn't have a door on it. But they're pretty good. They don't play around with the toys. Most of the toys in here are behind glass cabinets anyway, and I just keep boxes of stuff on the lower shelves where the cats can get to. So George is now climbing all over my computer, King George V. Stiff Kittens Review says, my first Action Force were the Night Attack Jeep and Zartan and the Chameleon from Hamleys when I was staying long term in a neurological hospital in London. Oh, I had to go to hospital for an operation when I was around 5 years old, and I got the Action Force Mountain and Arctic figure with the AF9 Snow Patrol vehicle and the large card back. I got given that. So it's funny the things we remember, isn't it? How some toys can... I have a distinct memory of getting that AF9 because it was in hospital and all I had to have this operation, so... Keith Holmes, he says, Action Force and G.I. Joe are like Garbage Pail Kids. They have 2 different names. Yeah. Nyquist75 says, Beachhead Time 6 case recently delivered to Target. I'm assuming you're talking about the classifieds ones. Yeah, potentially I'm going to do a video about the deluxe snake eyes from the classified line, but I'm not getting any more of them. The tank in the background is the Action Force Z-Force tank. It's a UK recolour of the Mobat. I've seen a heap of people have already mentioned that in the comments. So, and while I think of it, I was just chatting to Alan Dawson like 45 minutes before the live stream started. You should know Alan Dawson. He appeared in the Palatalk episode. He sent me through a heap of old Palatoy toy commercials. Well, not just Palatoy, some other stuff as well. Some 1970s toy commercials. Some that I haven't seen before, and some that I have seen before, but not in very good quality. There is some like Palatoy UK versions of some Mego commercials. Some great stuff. Thank you very much, Alan. I'm going to be uploading a few of those to YouTube after this because we want to share them. So all credit to Alan Dawson for sharing those with me. That's been great to sit down and have a look through those commercials. I was kind of editing them quickly before I came up here. I've already got them edited. I just need to upload them now. Resolute 123, my mate Dave. Thanks very much, brother. Hope you're doing well. Boba Hicks says, were Action Force Weekly and Battle Action Force comics published by the same company? No. Action Force Weekly was published by Marvel UK. I can't remember the publisher of Battle Action Force off the top of my head. I've got a copy back there of one. No, definitely not. Venkman, thank you for another generous super chat. My first G.I. Joe vehicle was the Ghost Striker from 1993. I got it from my aunt and uncle, but their kids, who your cousins, were more interested in it than I was. We would be playing Batman and they'd want to play with that jet. The Ghost Striker. I'm not even familiar with the Ghost Striker. I know when I was a kid, I always wanted, but never got when I was a kid, the Sky Striker. Have a look at that box. That G.I. Joe artwork was just amazing. I've made the decision that now I've kind of moved this for the live stream. That after the live stream, this is coming. Oh, probably tomorrow. This is coming out of the box, and I'm gonna hang it on the wall above my sort of G.I. Joe corner around there. Werewolf by Lunchtime says, you've got me addicted to Black Series figures. 6 weeks ago I had none. I have four. Now I have 14. Werewolf by Lunchtime, I picked up 4 just because I saw them in Kmart and they were pretty cool. And now I've become addicted. So sorry about that. Timothy Ward, thank you very much, working as always. Zanista Studios, thank you very much for the super chat, but no question. If you've got a question, Zanista, throw it in and I'll make sure to read it out. A Chrome Sky Striker would be cool, Scuba Pete, definitely. Yes, Generation X, we still have Kmart in Australia. I'm amazed at the amount of people who comment on if I do a video where I mention Kmart. Yeah. I don't know how to pronounce your name. Himanshu Deb. Who's the guy? You're asking a lot of questions about what these toys are. I'm happy to tell you. I'm not just going to list all of the toys. Like, most people know who this is. Most people know what the tank is. Carl Rudy says, hi guys, joining you from work. Don't tell the gaffer. Your secret's safe with us, Carl. Your secret's safe with us. Yep, that's Snake Eyes, and it's not a dog, it's a wolf. I wasn't sure if I had Law and Order on the table. I've got Law and Order in the cabinet. It's a small table, I couldn't bring everything out. I just put some of my favourite ones. Zanista says, his Sky Striker does not have an Ace fighter figure. Are there more accurate F-14 pilots in the G.I. Joe line, like in Top Gun? I can't remember his name, but I think the pilot for the... Oh, I'm having a brain fart now. The Conquest. The pilot for the Conquest, I think it looks more like a pilot. I know what you're saying. Ace kind of looks a bit more like an astronaut than a fighter pilot, so... Slipstream, that's his name, Slipstream. Yeah, that's a better looking figure. I've got a few other bits and pieces here to show you. I'm gonna get Sergeant Slaughter out of the way. He's an angry man. Got a nice blowtorch figure there. A little story with this guy. He's in really nice condition. Well, he was in mint condition. A while ago, I've since repaired him. I went to put this guy on a figure stand and broke the heel off the figure. It turned out that the figure stand was too large. Be careful when you purchase figure stands for G.I. Joe, because there are a lot of cheap Chinese. Sorry, I'm not saying they're Chinese. They're probably made in China. It's not. I wasn't trying to be racial of any kind. There are some cheap figure stands available through eBay that are advertised for G.I. Joe, but then when they turn up, the pegs that go into the holes in the feet are actually too large, and you can very easily break figures. So I was very frustrated when I did that, and I've managed to glue it back on, but I'll always know that the heel on this figure was cracked at one point. Nyquist75 says that happened to him once. Will never use stands again. Yeah, Nyquist, don't be afraid to use stands again. Just make sure you get the right stands, the right diameter. Once you've got good quality stands, they're all good. G.I. Joeberg's in the chat. Awesome to have you here, G.I. Joeberg. The ace that came with the Ghost Striker X16, probably the most realistic G-suit. There you go, Zanista. If anyone knows the most realistic kind of G-suit pilot, it's going to be G.I. Joeberg. Don Draper says, knowing a figure is broke, even if you can't see the repair, is very annoying. Uh, a little bit, Don. If a figure is broken because I accidentally broke it, it's very annoying. But if I have just purchased a collection of vintage toys and there's a broken toy and I've restored it, I actually get a lot of satisfaction out of that. That really doesn't bother me. I like bringing action figures and toys back to life through restoration and repair. But it does annoy me when I know that a figure's broken because I was being a dumbass. So... yes, this is the real G.I. Joe Berg. I'm almost certain of that. Yeah. Are there fake G.I. Joe Bergs out there? If there are probably fake analog toys out there too. And yeah, who knows? Jason Keane says, how many thumbs got broken over the years? I'm trying to remember from my childhood. Certainly, Snake Eyes version 2 by 1991 was the loosest, because he was my favourite figure and got played with so much. All his joints were loose. I'm almost certain I broke a thumb off him. He wouldn't be the only figure, but not too many. I think because when I was playing with these toys, 1987, I was turning 10, so I was probably a little bit more careful with my toys. If I had been getting these when I was 5 and 6, a lot more of them would have got broken, I'd say. Vintage Toy Rush says, nothing worse knowing a figure has survived decades and then you break it within 5 minutes of owning it. Absolutely. I didn't do this within 5 minutes of owning it, but this is an older figure than the majority of what's on the table here. It's in really nice condition, pretty much not played with. It's very, very annoyed that I broke the heel off Blowtorch there. But Blowtorch and Barbecue, a firefighter and a flamethrower specialist. Steve. I wasn't sure who from G.I. Joe Berg, but how's the weather over in Brisbane, my man? And what time is it there? Is it like 11 p.m. or midnight? I hope you're doing well. And are you finding G.I. Joe classifieds over there? I know I went down to Perth not too long ago, and Pimp Daddy Destro was everywhere, but that's the only figure I could find. Not that I was going to buy any, but I was still keeping an eye out in the toy shops for them. Gojatron, thank you very much for the super chat. What is my opinion on why Real American Hero is so popular internationally? I think there's a couple of factors. For me, it's because I loved the comic storyline, the comic backstory that went with it, but also the toy line itself was so incredibly vast. When you're talking about a toy line that has everything from a giant aircraft carrier down to all the different types of vehicles, I don't think there has ever been a more diverse action figure range than G.I. Joe. The original 80s G.I. Joe toy line was far larger than Star Wars ever was. It just had a universal appeal because there was so many different products available. It ran for such a long time. And it was just super cool, man. It was just super cool. Such amazing characters. Even if Shipwreck's annoying, Can you think of a cheap alternative for a Secto Viper bubble helmet if you're familiar with the Cobra Bug? I'm not familiar with the Cobra Bug driver. That's a little bit beyond my time. Nyquist75 says Pimp Daddy is the one classified I've not seen. I'm not sure where you're based, Nyquist75, but I went to a toy shop down in Perth about 5 weeks ago or something. I was down in Perth for a week and I found 12 Pimp Daddy Destros on the shelf and no other classified figures whatsoever. And then he also turned up in like 2 or 3 other stores in like one morning of shopping. So, yeah. Soviet Idiot says, for me, G.I. Joe is popular internationally because of its quality, more points of articulation and lots of accessories, vehicles, dozens upon dozens of various characters. Yeah, it was just such a broad toy line. Toymate in Perth, they still have all 12 of them there, went there the other time. Alright, so the 12 Pimp Daddy Destros that I saw in Toymate and Joondalup apparently are still there on the shelf 4 or 5 weeks later. So... do you think putting in new O-ring decreases the value of these figures? Absolutely not. So, how do I put this? A rubber O-ring, right, is going to perish over time. People out there who believe if you replace a rubber O-ring in a G.I. Joe, it's no longer original, are just complete fucking crackpots. Sorry for the swearing. Complete crackpots. Because a rubber O-ring, right, is used in everything from garden hose taps, and it is not a component that was designed by Hasbro. It was something that they just bought off the shelf, probably from a car repair place. You know, give us a box of O-rings this particular size. No. To be honest, I would rather buy a figure with a replaced O-ring than a broken Joe, because then I haven't got to bother doing it myself. Yeah. Venkman, thank you again for a super chat. A couple of years ago, I spent a lot of money on a minty Mattel Secret Wars Wolverine, but when I tried to put his claws on, they both cracked on me. Oh, dude. I had the Secret Wars Wolverine. I had a number of the Secret Wars toys in the mid-80s. It wasn't a fad that lasted long with me, but I can remember breaking the claws when I was a kid. So I can imagine just how frustrating that is as a modern collector to go and do that. Yes, Kenny, the anti-repro people should be in straitjackets, put in a padded room with a box of Crayola crayons. Yeah. And they can write their manifesto on the wall. Idiots. I feel like any time someone purchases a Joe from a collector, they should replace the O-ring. That would make it safe for the next buyer and so on. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's right, Michael. And if you're really concerned, you can save the old crumbling O-ring as well. But at the end of the day, as I said, it's not like you're not giving the figure a reproduction weapon, right? Hasbro did not invent the O-ring. O-rings have been around for a long time to, as I said, stop water leaking out of garden hose tap fittings and things like that. It's just an off-the-shelf component. No different really to, like, you take Alpine here. He's got his 2 sort of grappling hooks with the black string. I believe this is original, but if you lost the string and you went out and you found exactly the same colour and thickness of string, the same sort of material, and you replaced it, don't think it matters. It's just a piece of string. It's not something that Hasbro actually designed. They just went and bought some black string from somewhere and put it on the figure. Keith Holmesley says he's replaced about 30 rubbers for the legs in Motu figures, and now they can stand up for what they believe in. More power to you, Keith Holmesley. I bought a set of 6 of the leg connectors. I need to go out and buy some more, because I've used them all already. And the Ninja figure that Jody sent me he stands quite well. You know, the rubber hasn't completely perished yet. It's probably got a bit more life in it, but I know it's eventually going to go. You know, the legs are a little bit loose. But that is one frustrating repair to make on a vintage action figure. Certainly not the easiest thing to do. It's much easier to replace an O-ring in a Joe than it is to replace the leg connectors in a Motu figure. So BT3615 says, by the way, to me, a seller that adds replaced O-ring in the description on eBay or whatever it is a plus for him because he knows he doesn't have to replace it immediately himself. Exactly. Like I'm more than capable of replacing the O-rings. I've got spare O-rings. I've got like a full kit. I know how to do it. But if someone's already done it, it's just less hassle for me. Yes, Scuba. Many cuss words are uttered when trying to replace the leg connectors in Motu figures. Werewolf by Lunchtime. What is my opinion on graded figures? A complete waste of time. An absolute waste of time. This is not a graded figure. This is just an acrylic case which I can open the bottom, take the carded figure out and put a different figure in there if I so wish. Grading, I think, is a complete waste of time. A waste of time, a waste of money. I've never bought into that fad of it. You know, be they grading loose figures or carded figures. Venkman, I would love it if someone would make repro Wolverine claws. Even if I find another vintage set, I'd still use the repro claws for display purposes. Yeah, exactly, Venkman. Just like Michael French from Retroblasting. In his Buck Rogers video where he talked about the Buck Rogers Starfighter, he's got the original, what do you call them? Like the engine caps that go on the back, but they have a tendency to split and break. So he puts the reproduction ones on there to save his originals. Absolutely, yeah. And yes, and it would be cool if someone made repro Wolverine claws. I wonder how difficult that would be. I wonder if they can be 3D printed. Gojatron says, do I have any other carded Joes? I have some Cobra figures carded. I had a lot, not a lot more. I had a few more, which I have. I gifted one to somebody. I sold a carded Storm Shadow simply because I needed to raise some funds quickly for another toy purchase, and I wasn't too. I would rather have a nice loose Storm Shadow than a carded one, because carded ones I can't really use in videos very much. So. Oh, A World Made of Cardboard has a great question. Where can you find the die-cast G.I. Joe leg hooks? I personally don't know. That would be awesome. What I tend to do is I've got a box of spare parts and pieces downstairs for G.I. Joe. What I tend to do is some of the tattier, more play-worn figures that I've got, I will disassemble and remove the... remove that piece and swap it out with the figure that I'm trying to repair. But yeah, sorry, I don't know if anyone does make those die-cast leg hooks, like the T-bar with the hook. I'd be interested to know if someone did, then I wouldn't have to keep robbing them from some sort of poorer quality figures. Kieran Ball says, unfortunately, the CGC, the biggest comic book grading company, have lowered their grading standards, making their grades worthless. Yeah, it's not something worth getting into. Werewolf by Lunchtime says, can I recommend another black and white war movie other than Ice Cold in Alex? Yeah, I can, but it's not a black and white movie from the same era. The one that's come to my mind is Paths of Glory by Stanley Kubrick about World War One. James Brewster says, "Hey Tony, I have seen your vids expressing your displeasure with Hasbro with the way they are handling retro reissues of G.I. Joe. What would you like to see come out next year for retro and classified?" Well, I think the retro line... So, Star Wars did a... Sorry. Hasbro did a Star Wars retro line where they re-released original figures from the 70s and 80s. They then did it with the real Kenner's Real Ghostbusters as well. They recreated those to an absolute T. Those figures are incredible. If anything, they improved upon them by using a slightly more flexible plastic for the accessories so they don't break so easy. So a retro line for me for G.I. Joe should be reproductions of these. Like that. That's what Hasbro have kind of said, you know, when they use the term retro, which, you know, as they've done with Star Wars and that, that says to me they're re-releasing original figures. So I want to see O-ring figures that are 3 3/4 inches tall, not 4 inches tall, and they don't fit inside vintage vehicles properly. What was the second part of your question? Oh, and for classifiers, I don't care what comes out for classifiers. They've kind of ruined it for me. They started off really well with the deluxe Snake Eyes, because, you know, he had his original Uzi like he was supposed to have, and he looked like Snake Eyes. And then all the other figures that came out, they gave them bloody hair straighteners and Nerf guns and Star Wars laser pistols in some cases, just reused Star Wars laser pistols. I hope they fixed the mistakes with the line, but yeah. Bobby L. Collins, I 100% agree with you. He said he'd be tempted to collect an entire first wave of Straight Arm reissues if they ever produce them. I would as well. I don't have any original Straight Arm G.I. Joes. Mainly because I'm collecting the stuff that I enjoyed as a child, which is this kind of era of G.I. Joe. And while we're speaking of that, I'm going to get the Tomahawk out of the way. Actually, before I get the Tomahawk out of the way, who wants to see the box for the Tomahawk? Because I think this box is just gorgeous. Look at that amazing G.I. Joe artwork. I just love that. So cool. Alright, get that out of the way. Yeah, Scuba Pete's loving the Tomahawk box, so don't blame you, Scuba. Alright. The Havoc. Picked this up back in January at a toy fair down in Perth. I've got the original box for it, but not here. Yeah, I like the Havoc. Certainly not a... You know, this is when G.I. Joe started, or... The warning signs were there that they were eventually going to jump the shark. Not as realistic as some of the earlier vehicles, but I do still like it. Yeah, and there's a video on the channel where I talk about the Havoc and Sergeant Slaughter's Triple T and my childhood memory of these two toys. So... Soviet Idiot says, are all the big packaged vehicle playsets of G.I. Joe just white boxes with stickers, or are they properly printed ones? No, a lot of the smaller ones are printed all the way around. It's kind of the larger boxes that are just printed on two sides. But yeah, certainly not the smaller ones. I remember, the Ore Striker box, the Cobra Stinger box, all of those were colour printed all the way around, and you would cut the file card out of the back of the box. Jason Keane says, are original repros even possible? Do Hasbro even have the original moulds anymore? Jason Keane, I don't believe that Hasbro have the original moulds for Star Wars figures. I believe that they have recreated the moulds for the Star Wars figures. Yes, it's definitely possible. I think one of the reasons Hasbro is not doing it is because of the metal parts that are involved. So the metal T-piece and hook inside that hooks the legs to the O-ring, the screw in the back, the rivets in the joins. That's not how toy manufacturing is done these days. I believe that's why. Same reason why Hasbro have failed to give us a C-3PO or R2-D2 in the Retro Collection line, because they won't do any vac metalizing. Gojatron's asking if I've ever had any interest in other 3 3/4 inch military styled lines like Lenard's The Core. No, not really. Not really. GeForce Racing 20, do I have the bridge layer? I love the play value of that toy. I have a very incomplete bridge layer. I've got the bridge and I've got the main shell of the vehicle, but it's got none of the accessories, hasn't got the driver. But the bridge is good for dioramas, so. Scuba Pete says he loves adding Black Major creations to bolster his Cobra displays like the Terradrome and tons of eels for his sub. Yeah. Black Major creations or Black Major customs, whatever they're called, a great option for filling out your army builders. Chris Miwa says, Tony, how much did military-themed toy lines like Action Man, G.I. Joe influence you in later life? Immensely, Chris, immensely. It was I don't know how old I was, but the first time I don't think I was even being given an Action Man. I was being allowed to play with my brothers and asking my dad, who's this guy? What does he do? And he's like, he's a soldier, and he kind of explained, and I was like, from that moment on, I wanted to join the military. I wanted to be a soldier. So it had an incredible influence. I have absolutely no idea how many G.I. Joe figures I have. I don't know. I don't count. Nyquist75 he says he's got about 100 loose, a real American hero. I don't think I've got that many. Probably got that many Action Force figures, but yeah. Wealth by Lunchtime says, how much do you think a 1/6 scale Death Star would cost? Asking for Galactus. Wow. A Black Series. Oh, 1/6 scale. Like Action Man scale. Damn. Yeah, you'd be looking at a lot for that. Well, we've been going for about an hour. Bo Gregory says he's really missing going to toy shows. Are you all having any down there? Yes, Bo, we're lucky. We're still having toy shows, but unfortunately, because I live in such a remote place, I don't get to go to them very often. Down in Perth, there are 2 major shows. Like one's called Nexus, the other one is called Collector Zone Hobby and Collector Fair. And each of them do 4 shows a year. So there are 8 shows down in Perth, which if I was living there, I could go to 8 toy shows a year. Unfortunately, I've only been to 1 this year. So Keith Holmesley, he says, how many G.I. Joe's original that they made from 82 to 87? Got to be about 200. I would think so, Keith. Possibly more. Yeah, they made a lot of G.I. Joes in the 80s. Zanista has got a question. Is customizing Joe vehicles okay in this community? I've had bad experiences with the Star Wars community with my customs. As far as I'm concerned, Zanista, there's absolutely no issue with customizing Joe vehicles in this community. I know a lot of people who customize Joe vehicles. At the end of the day, if you have purchased a toy, whether it's vintage or not, whatever it is, and someone else is trying to tell you what you can and can't do with it, they're the people who have a problem, and they're the ones that are in the wrong. Just do what you want to do. They're your toys, your collection. Go right ahead. And GeForce Racing completely agrees with me. Alright, yeah. I've got a mystery box to open, guys. I need to... Oh, there's Hit and Run. He's one of my sort of favourite later G.I. Joe figures. I've got him there. I just picked some random figures that I like to bring over. Let's get this out of the way. Yeah, so we've got a mystery box today from John Baldry. Retro Blasting in the house. Good to see you, Michael. Oh. Stephen S. Do they make repro weapons for the Joes like they do for the vintage Star Wars figures? Yeah, some. I know, like Black Major Customs, but I mean he does complete reproductions of entire figures. So yeah. Okay, well, this is from John Baldry. John Baldry has donated a few things to the channel before, and I was not expecting this to turn up. It turned up early in the week, so let's see what we've got here today. David S. says there are some people in some of the Facebook Joe groups that tell people it's wrong to touch up figures. As long as you disclose everything, as long as you disclose everything, if you sell items, it's nobody else's business. Yeah, that's the problem with social media, Facebook groups. When someone else tries to dictate what you can and can't do with your collection, that says more about them than it does about you. Just remember, there's a lot of assholes in the world, and a lot of them are in Facebook toy groups. Oh, thank you, John, for the amazing letter. It says, Tony, enjoy. Okay, what? Cool. Very cool. Oh. John has sent me the ghost for my Peter Venkman that's missing the ghost. Thank you very much. That's cool. I'm sure I would have been able to find one of those, but I haven't really actively been looking. So, you've just completed my Peter Venkman. Thank you very much. These are nice. Hot Wheels Ghostbusters Ecto 1. Let's get some of this out of the way. Oh, it's always a mission cleaning up after the live stream. There we go. You see that? Ecto 1. That's very nice too. Very cool. Thank you, John. And another classic car to accompany it. We have the Back to the Future DeLorean. Very cool. James Brewster has bought several custom-made G.I. Joe figures and have no problem adding them to my collection. Yeah, absolutely not. What is... Uh-oh. John, what have you done? I see Star Wars Black Series, but I don't know what. What's in the box? Oh, man. John, you didn't. Luke Skywalker and Yoda Jedi training. Is this an Amazon exclusive? that Mark Hamill sculpt is a bit better than the Bespin one I have. The Black Series collection is growing, my friends. The Black Series collection is growing. Thank you very much, John. I really, really do appreciate it. This is pretty nice, actually. That is actually a pretty nice looking Luke Skywalker. I'm going to display him with the training backpack and Yoda in the backpack. Retroblasting, thank you very much for the super chat. It says, for the great shelf displays behind you and the prominent devilfish front and centre. Yeah, this devilfish has actually got, there's foot pegs here and one of them's broken off. But I'm not too worried. It's also somewhere for Shipwreck to sit because this Shipwreck's got no accessories and he looks a bit dumb standing on a shelf without his accessories. Alright guys, yeah, Thindale, completely agree, man. It's up to you. You do with your Joe figures. What you do with your Joe figures, no one should judge you. Completely agree. It's your collection. You just do as you like. So, Retroblasting says he still hasn't acquired a devilfish, so when he sees them, he gets a bit jazzed. That's weird because this is probably the third or fourth one I've had in my collection over the years. I've always moved them on again. So, isn't that funny how I find these really common and yet you haven't acquired one yet. So, yeah, it's funny how different people's collections have different things come in, and some things I might think are common, you might think aren't quite so common. So. Timothy Ward, thank you, whatever you're doing there, as always. Philip Gill says, anyone remember a bizarre Action Force and Transformers crossover comic story? I do. It was terrible. It scarred me for life. Yes, Retroblast. Yeah, it is very weird the way that works. Happens a lot between collections. I know, for the longest time, I was nothing but an Action Man collector. I didn't start getting into anything else till about 10 or 12 years ago. And there is some Action Man sets out there that I consider extremely rare because I just don't come across them. And yet I read in collectors' books that these things are very common and turn up all the time. And yeah. Yes, Chris Meara, I really would like to thank Timothy Ward once again. He does constantly does a great job. So, and Retroblast, he was tripping over Darth Vader TIE fighters for years, yeah, and I just haven't stumbled across one until I was very kindly gifted one by yourself. So, but yeah, guys, I've almost finished a script for a video that I'm calling The History of Bullet Man. Probably filming that tomorrow. I'm not at work on Monday this week, so I reckon I'll have it to the patrons sometime Monday, which for you guys may be like Sunday night. So there's that coming. Between now and Christmas, you will definitely get the Action Force 1982 video. That's going to be a big video. That's going to take me a little while. You may literally get that like right up at Christmas. I'm taking 2 weeks off at Christmas, so I think I finish up work around the 17th of something or of December. So I'll have loads of time on my hands to get some videos done. But straight after this, I'm going to be uploading a few UK Palatoy commercials, including one that features a Dalek, one that's got Ricochet racers, an Evel Knievel toy commercial that I've never seen before, and some Palatoy commercials for Mego fistfighting superheroes and stuff. All courtesy of my friend Alan Dawson. So please enjoy those commercials, share them with your friends, share them on your whatever your collecting groups are. Have a great weekend, and don't forget, 2 p.m. US Eastern Standard Time, Retro Blasting live stream. Tune in. It will probably be too early in the morning for me. I will catch the replay, but I believe they're talking about the Star Wars sequel trilogy saga. So that will be interesting. That will be interesting. I hope Tim Whitten's on there. I'm interested to see what he's got to say about the Star Wars sequel trilogy. So cool. All right. Have a great weekend, guys. And yes, and those toy commercials should be up like in the next 30 minutes. I'm going to go and do it straight away. So, all right. I'm going to squeeze out of my little hole here, and you guys have a great weekend. Cheers. Whoa. Lost the comic.